My name is Rachel, and for a long time I thought my story had ended right there, on the cold floor of that empty apartment when he left without saying a single word. I was 3 months pregnant. He knew, and even so, he left me. It felt like the world had turned off the lights and forgotten I existed. I was left with the bills, the fear, the nausea, and the silence. I had to sell my things, crash on a friend's couch, until I finally found a job, pregnant, waiting tables in a restaurant that reeked of grease and despair. No one knew my story. They only saw a waitress with a belly too big to be standing. And then, one random late afternoon, he walked in, wearing an expensive suit, a gold watch, and that same cold stare. Ethan, the man who once promised to take care of me, and left me alone. When our eyes met, the world stopped. I trembled, almost dropped the tray. He defroze too. This is the story of what happened next, and if you've ever loved someone who turned their back on you, if you've ever had to start over from nothing, or if you carry scars no one can see, stay with me. Subscribe to the channel, because here is where we turn pain into story, and story into strength to keep going. A light rain fell over the dirty asphalt of downtown Newark, and the smell of old grease, mixed with cheap disinfectant, filled the air. I adjusted the wrinkled apron around my waist as I pushed open the kitchen door with my hip. The restaurant was nearly empty, but my feet felt like they were carrying the weight of the world, and it wasn't just because of the belly that already made me walk slowly. It was the exhaustion of 7 months fighting alone. "Rachel, table 3 wants ketchup again," shouted Jerry, the cook, from across the grill, his voice raspy from cigarettes and chronic annoyance. "On it," I replied, forcing a smile that didn't reach my eyes. Every step made my ankles throb. I felt like a ticking time bomb, and no one there cared if I exploded. At table 2, an old man read the newspaper with the patience of someone who no longer had anywhere to be. At table 4, a couple argued in silence, not even touching. The city was full of stories, and none of them seemed sadder than mine, but I swallowed the grief like I drank cold coffee, down in one go, without complaint. "Hey, are you okay?" whispered Angie, my co-worker, touching my arm as I grabbed the ketchup packets. "Just tired, and my back hurts, and I feel like disappearing. The usual," I joked, forcing a laugh. She looked at me with pity, but didn't press. Pity was the last thing I wanted. In the kitchen, I leaned against the sink for 2 seconds, just to breathe. No one knew, but that morning I had gone to my prenatal checkup alone. The baby was fine, according to the doctor, but my heart, mine, felt like it was sinking deeper each day. When Ethan left me, I swore I wouldn't go after him. Pride, you know? But every night I dreamed of him, and every morning I woke up angry that I still did. "Rachel, can you clean table 5? The customer left a nice tip," yelled Margot, the manager, eyeing my belly like I was a ticking sanitary hazard. I took a deep breath, smiled again, went. As I wiped up crumbs from a half-eaten sandwich, I heard laughter coming from the bar TV. Some random commercial, but the sound of a diaper ad caught me off guard. My stomach turned. The tears came, hot, fast. I turned my back to hide it. "Do you need help?" asked a man's voice behind me. I turned around, startled. It wasn't Ethan. Not yet. Just a regular customer, but for a second my whole body went cold, as if it were him. "No, thank you. Everything's under control," I said, wiping my face with the sleeve of my shirt. That night, I left the restaurant later than I should have, with a rain-soaked uniform and a heart squeezed tight with pain. I boarded the crowded bus, clutching the metal bar with one hand and my belly with the other. And there, in the front seat, a child looked at me with those curious, innocent eyes. He smiled at me, and I smiled back, even with my soul torn open, because sometimes the world seems like it wants to crush you, but what it doesn't know is that inside me, even tired, still lives a woman who hasn't given up. The next afternoon, the restaurant was busier than usual. The mix of voices, shouted orders from the kitchen, and clinking silverware created a symphony of chaos. I moved slowly between tables, feeling the baby's weight in every step. Sweat trickled down my neck, even with the air conditioner blasting. "Rachel, focus on tables 5 and 6, okay? And then check the women's restroom. It's out of toilet paper," said Margot, the manager, as if I wasn't carrying an entire universe in my belly. "Okay," I replied, forcing that professional smile you learn when you need the paycheck more than you need respect. That's when the door to the restaurant opened. I heard it but kept walking toward table 5 with the coffee pot. Something made me turn my head. He was there. Ethan. My entire body froze for half a second. Hair neatly styled, grey blazer, polished shoes. He looked like he'd stepped out of a bank commercial. But it wasn't the suit that stunned me. It was his eyes. His eyes scanned the dining room until they met mine. And when they did, he froze too. My heart dropped to my stomach. I gripped the handle of the coffee pot so tightly, my fingers went numb. He saw me, and for a moment, time stopped. "Rachel," he whispered almost silently, taking a step toward me. "Table or counter?" I asked coldly, pretending he was just another customer. He hesitated. I'll sit over there in the corner," he said, pointing to the last table by the window. I turned and went to get a menu. My legs felt like jelly. Angie, who saw everything, rushed to me in the back. "Rachel, is that him, the baby's father?" she whispered, eyes wide. "Yeah, and I have no idea what he's doing here. Want me to take his table for you?" "No, I'll do it. I want to look him in the eyes and see if he still has the guts to lie." I walked back to his table with the menu in hand, placed it in front of him without saying a word. "You look beautiful," he said, staring at my belly. "I mean, different. Beautiful in a strong kind of way. You disappeared, Ethan. You don't get to say anything now." He took a deep breath, ran a hand through his hair. "I know it seems unforgivable, and maybe it is, but I didn't expect to find you here. I thought you had gone back to your mom's. My mom died last year. You knew that." He lowered his head. Silence. It hurt to see that he still knew how to wound me without saying a word. "Do you want to order something? Because I'm on the clock. Can I see you after your shift? Please, 10 minutes. That's all." Before I could answer, Margot appeared out of nowhere. "Rachel, I need you at the register now." I took a deep breath, looked at Ethan. I saw guilt in his eyes, and something else, something that looked like regret, but I'd been fooled by that look before. "I'll be back to take your order in 5 minutes, I said dryly, and walked away. Deep down, my hands were shaking, and my heart, which I thought was completely shattered, still seemed to hold a piece that beat just for him. That night after my shift, I walked to the bus stop with an exhausted body and a mind on fire. I couldn't shake the image of Ethan sitting at that table, his voice, the way he looked at me, as if he hadn't been the one who left me at the most vulnerable moment of my life. I sat on the hard bench at the bus stop and closed my eyes for a second, and there, in the silence of the wet city, it all came rushing back. 7 months earlier, September, 11:37 a.m. "Ethan." "Bree," I called, walking into the room holding the pregnancy test. "We need to talk." He was on the phone, pacing in his Italian shoes that cost more than everything in my closet. He motioned for me to wait. He hung up 2 minutes later without even looking at me. "Okay, talk." I held out the test. 2 lines, clear, undeniable, like a sentence. "I'm pregnant." He looked at it. Silence. Too long. "Rachel, are you sure? I took 3 tests, and I have a prenatal appointment scheduled." "Ethan, we're having a baby." He rubbed his face like he was trying to wake up from a nightmare. "This isn't a good time. I'm closing that deal with the Chinese investors, remember? There's a lot of pressure right now. You think I chose this like it's some whim? I'm terrified too, but this is ours." He got up slowly, grabbed his keys. "I need to think." "Think about what, Ethan? You're the father. You can't just walk out like this isn't happening. I'll be back later." But he never came back. Back to the present. The bus arrived. I got on without looking at anyone. sat in the last row and leaned my head against the fogged-up window. The pain was as fresh as it was that day. For weeks, I kept calling, left voicemails, sent emails, no reply, no explanation. Then came the silence, and with it, the anger and the shame. Angie was the only one who stood by me when everything collapsed. She helped me find the room I live in now, got me the job at the restaurant, lent me money to buy the baby's first clothes, but nothing filled the hole. His absence was like a constant echo. The silence screamed every single day. I lay on the hard bed and ran a hand over my belly. "You won't grow up not knowing your worth, I promise," I whispered. "Even if he comes back, I won't let you go through what I did." But deep down, part of me still wanted to hear what he had to say, because sometimes what destroys us most isn't what happened. It's what was left unanswered. 2 days had passed since Ethan walked into that restaurant, and since then, he hadn't left my thoughts. I pretended I was sticking to the routine, that spilled sodas and fries still mattered. But the truth was, every step I took felt 3 times heavier. It was on a cloudy Wednesday that he came back, 10 minutes after my shift started, and this time he wasn't wearing a suit. A dark t-shirt, jeans, and a tired look. He seemed human, almost vulnerable. But I forced myself not to feel anything. "Him again, Rachel," Angie whispered, nodding in his direction. "Want me to take the table?" "No, I've got it." I walked up to the table with my notepad. "Back to eat or to disappear again?" I said flatly without looking at him. "I came back to listen. If you'll let me." "Listen to what, Ethan? The sound of my belly growing while you pretended I didn't exist? That part's gone." He swallowed hard. "I deserve that, and worse. But I wanted to try to explain." "Then go ahead." "Here? In the middle of people eating pancakes and ketchup?" He looked at me. That look again, the one that used to undo me. "Just 10 minutes, after your shift, on that bench outside. Please." I took a deep breath. Part of me wanted to yell, "Go away." But another part, one I hated admitting existed, wanted to listen. Maybe just to confirm he really was the coward I remembered. "Don't wait longer than that," I said coldly, and walked away. It was already night when the restaurant emptied out. I grabbed my jacket and stepped out to the sidewalk. He was sitting on the wooden bench, hands clasped together like he was waiting for his sentence. "You came," he said, almost relieved. "Make it quick, Ethan, I'm tired." He looked at me, took a deep breath. "I ran. When you told me, I panicked. Everything felt like it was falling apart. My company was on the edge of collapse. My investors were threatening to back out. My dad was in the hospital. And then you showed up with a pregnancy test in your hand. Oh, so I was the problem? Good to know bringing a life into the world was just another burden on your emotional plate. That's not what I mean, it's just I didn't know how to be a man. I acted like a boy. And when I realized what I had done, I thought it was already too late. It was. You think an apology now erases everything I went through? The fear, the loneliness, the nights crying, not knowing if the baby would even have a place to sleep? No, but I'm here. If there's even the slightest chance. I want to make things right." Silence. I looked up at the sky. The clouds hid the stars. Everything dark. "You haven't even asked if he's yours." "Is he?" "I'm not sure, Ethan, but it's possible. Very possible." He closed his eyes, like he'd just been punched in the chest, then opened them slowly. "If he is, I want to be there, even if you hate me." I looked at him, for the first time in months, really looked, and I realized that the man in front of me wasn't the same one who abandoned me. But he wasn't enough yet to erase what he'd left behind. The heat inside the restaurant felt stronger that day, even with the air conditioner humming above. The white lights were harsh, and the smells, everything was more intense. The grill grease, the stale coffee, the cheap perfume from table 3, it was like the whole world had grown heavier. Each step I took dragged the floor with me, my belly tight, my back screaming, my ankles throbbing. I focused on balancing a tray with 2 hot soups and a Coke, but my hands were shaking. Rachel, sit down for a minute, seriously. You don't look okay, Angie said, holding onto my arm. I just need some air. It'll pass. And I walked to the counter to lean on it, but everything started to spin. The voices around me faded like they were underwater. I tried blinking hard, focusing, staying upright. But I couldn't. The floor disappeared from under me. The last thing I saw was Angie's panicked face running toward me. When I opened my eyes, there was a soft light overhead and the smell of rubbing alcohol. I tried to move, but my head still throbbed. I slowly turned to the side, and there he was, Ethan, sitting in a plastic chair next to my hospital bed, arms crossed, eyes red from staring at the floor. You passed out at the restaurant. I had to bring you here, he said, before I could even ask. Why did you come? I murmured, throat dry. Angie called me, and I just came. It was the least I could do. I looked away. Tears burned at the corners of my eyes. I hated how he still spoke like he had a place in my life. The doctor said it was exhaustion, that you're pushing yourself too hard. If I don't work, Ethan, who pays the rent? You? Yes, I will, if you'll let me. I took a deep breath, feeling the pain in my chest more than in my body. You disappeared when everything started to fall apart. And now you want to come back when it's already in ruins. That's not how it works. I'm not trying to fix the past. I just want to be here now. And from now on. He lowered his head. For a moment, he said nothing. And in that silence, I remembered all the nights I fell asleep hungry and afraid. Every time I woke up with my pillow soaked in tears. He had no idea. Do you know if it's mine? He asked suddenly, his voice softer than I'd ever heard. I don't know for sure, but it could be. And if it is, I'm not sure you're ready. He nodded slowly, stood up, walked over to the window, and stared outside. I may not have been a real man before, but I want to learn how to be one now. I closed my eyes, and for a moment I just listened to my own breathing. Everything hurt, my body, my soul, the memories, but I was still here, still whole, still standing. When I was discharged, he insisted on driving me home. I refused, said I'd take the bus like always, and as I stepped out the hospital doors, feeling the cold wind on my face, I knew one thing for sure. I didn't know what to do with his presence, but I knew exactly what to do with my strength. Move forward. The kitchen clock read 3 a.m. when I woke up startled. I felt a strong kick. My baby was restless, as if he could feel my heart couldn't find peace either. I got up with difficulty and went to the window. The city was asleep. The silence of the night weighed heavier than the noise of the day. It felt like the whole world had gone, except me. I grabbed my phone, opened his contact. Ethan, still there, as if he had never disappeared, as if those 7 months of abandonment were just a pause. I wanted to delete his name so many times, but I couldn't. I took a deep breath, typed, deleted, typed again. Want the truth? Meet me tomorrow, where it all began. Sent. The next day began overcast. The restaurant hadn't even opened when I got there. I asked Margot for a few hours off. She grumbled but agreed. I just needed a safe space. And oddly enough, I chose the restaurant itself. Empty, before the shift, before the world turned on. He showed up on time. No flowers, no posing. Just tired eyes and a grey sweatshirt. You called me, I'm here. Sitting here now, it all looks simple, doesn't it? I began, straight to the point. But what I lived through wasn't simple, Ethan, and you need to hear it. He nodded, silent. After you left, I looked for you for weeks. I called, I texted. I even went to your office. Nothing, no reply, not a single sign. I was ashamed, Rachel. Ashamed. I slept on a borrowed mattress at Angie's place. Threw up every morning and cried every night. Scared I'd lose the baby because I could barely eat. And you were ashamed. He ran his hands over his face, trying to hold back emotion. But I didn't stop. I went to the hospital alone, signed papers alone, had ultrasounds alone, found out the baby's gender, alone. Do you know what that's like? To see a heartbeat on the screen and have no one to share that moment with? Boy or girl? He asked quietly. Boy, I replied, almost a whisper. And he kicks when there's noise. Just like you couldn't sleep with the TV on. He smiled slightly, and that made me angry. Don't smile, Ethan. Not now, because this baby, he might be yours, but he's mine. He was mine through every lonely night, every hard decision, every choice to keep going, even when everything said give up. I'm listening, he said, lowering his eyes, and I deserve every word. You have no idea what I went through, and I don't know if you ever will. But I called you here today because I needed to say this, not for you, for me, because I'm tired of carrying it all in silence. We sat in silence for a few seconds, only the sound of the clock and my heart beating. I'm not asking you for anything, I added. Not your presence, not your money, not your recognition, but if you want to be part of his life, that's up to you, not me. And what about you? He asked, voice hesitant. Will you let me be part of yours too? I looked at him. For the first time, without anger, just tiredness. I don't know, but today, for the first time in a long time, I can breathe again. In the days that followed, Ethan started showing up. At first I thought it was just a guilt-driven impulse, remorse, but he kept coming. To the restaurant, waiting outside until my shift ended. Once, twice, 3 times, he brought fruit, a bottle of natural juice, nothing grand, but symbolic. You need to take care of yourself to take care of him too, he said, handing me a bag with nuts and vitamins. And you need to prove you're not just here because the guilt got heavy, I replied, taking the bag with suspicion. He didn't argue, didn't defend himself, just listened. On Saturday, he found me sitting on a bench in the little square near my place. I'd gone out for some air after a brutal bout of heartburn that had kept me up all night. You really are different, I said, looking at him with a mix of surprise and irony. Maybe I'm starting to become the man I should have been from the start, he answered, avoiding my eyes. It was that afternoon that he brought up the DNA test. I'm not saying I don't believe you, Rachel, but if he's my son, I want to make everything right. Registration, name, everything. And if he's not, I won't vanish. I just want to be sure. My throat tightened. Part of me felt offended. Another part understood. Fine, let's do the test. That way you'll also know if this is just your personal redemption project. It's not. We'll see. We scheduled the test. 1 week, 7 days that felt endless. On the way home after the clinic, he walked beside me in silence, and I said nothing either. Sometimes silence speaks louder than any poorly chosen words. That night in my small room, I stared at the ceiling and asked myself, if the result is positive, can I let him into my child's life? And if it's negative, can I handle him walking away again? Angie noticed my turmoil. She came over with a box of donuts and her usual dose of honesty. Do you still love him? She asked directly, napkin in hand. I don't even know what love is anymore, Angie. I think I'm just tired of being angry. That might be the start of forgiveness. But it doesn't mean you have to go back. And if he's the father, then he'll have to learn how to be one. And you'll have to keep learning how to be a mother, with or without him, just like you've already been doing. I hugged Angie tightly that day. Because sometimes the only certainty we have is the support of those who never left. The week started with a strange feeling in the air. Even with the blue sky and strong sunlight coming through my bedroom window, I felt a shadow hovering over everything. Ethan kept showing up, with fruit, with promises, with that cautious look of someone trying to do the right thing, but not knowing where to begin. He even came with a smile, and for a few hours I let myself forget. Let him assemble the dresser, measure space for the crib, ask about cloth diapers versus disposable, but inside, something still held me back, like the ground could open up at any moment. On Tuesday, while he was crouched with a screwdriver in hand, my phone buzzed. Instagram notification, a direct message, from an unknown profile, with a woman's name and just one profile picture. A field of flowers, no face. I got curious. I opened the message. It was a photo. Ethan, sitting on a balcony, laughing, his hand on the thigh of a blonde woman with straight hair, sunglasses in her lap. She was smiling too. They looked close, natural. The caption below said, "Miss our summer, but I know you still think of me." My blood ran cold. It wasn't jealousy. It was a sting of shame, betrayal, anger, all at once. I stood up slowly without saying anything, walked over to him and showed him the picture without blinking. "Are you still seeing this woman?" He froze, motionless for a moment, looked at the screen, then looked at me, took a deep breath. "Rachel, that's old. It was before I knew about the pregnancy, before everything. I swear, you disappeared on me and were with her?" I was lost. After I left that house, I went into denial. Stayed at a friend's place, drank, spent days not thinking. And yes, I met her, but it was a mistake, a short one. And now she randomly sends you this. What a coincidence. She saw us together, at the restaurant, or on the street. I don't know. She's obsessed. I ended things. She won't let go. So now this is my fault. No, Rachel, it's my fault. I'm trying to show you I've changed, that I'm here, that I want to be part of your life, of the baby's life. But you're still surrounded by lies. Do you think a few pieces of fruit after my shift and assembling a dresser erase everything you did? He stood up, slammed his hand on the table, eyes glistening. No, I know they don't. But I'm trying, damn it, I'm trying. And every time I get a little closer, you build another wall. Like I'll never deserve even your glance. Maybe you don't. The silence after the shouting was louder than any word spoken. He lowered his head, defeated. "You know what? I'm not going to argue anymore. If you want me out of your life, do it. But know this, I'm not giving up on my son." "If he's your son, right?" I snapped, instantly regretting it. He stood there for a moment, like that line had punched him in the gut. Then, without another word, he grabbed his car keys and left. The door slammed with a bang that echoed in my chest. I stayed there, alone, hands resting on my belly. I felt the baby move. "Shh. It's okay, my love. Mommy's here. I'm here." The tears came again, quiet this time. And right there, sitting on the floor of that half-finished nursery, I realized something. It wasn't just the fear of being lied to again. It was the fear of believing, of making space, of loving someone who had already broken me once. The week dragged on. I counted the days, like someone waiting for a sentence. The DNA test results were due Friday, and with each sunrise my thoughts spun faster than I could organize them. I didn't see Ethan again. He respected my silence, and somehow that bothered me, because part of me wanted him to insist, to knock on my door, to say he wouldn't accept being pushed away like that. But he didn't come. On Friday, I woke up before the sun, showered in silence, put on the same old cotton pants, the crop top that was now too tight for my growing belly, and went to the clinic, alone, again. At reception, the envelope was already on the counter. Confidential, written in bold letters like it was a secret from anyone but me. I took it. The woman smiled. I didn't smile back. I walked out before my eyes gave away what I was feeling. On the bus, the envelope burned in my hands. I could have opened it right there, but I couldn't. Maybe I wasn't ready yet. When I got home, I sat on the couch, took a deep breath. With trembling fingers, I broke the seal. There it was, his name, mine, and the bolded sentence, "Genetic compatibility confirmed. Probability of paternity, 99.98%. For a moment, the world stopped. The tears came, not from sadness, not from relief. It was like a part of me, stuck in the past, was finally released. Ethan was the father. Officially. But what did that even mean? I grabbed my phone, typed a message. "The results are in. You're the father." Less than 2 minutes later, he replied, "Can I see you today?" I took a deep breath, typed, "Yes, but don't come like before. Come ready to listen." 2 hours later, he was at the door. No suit, no fruit, just him. With a clean face and dark eyes that hadn't slept in days. I sat in the kitchen chair. He stood, hesitating. "You're the father, officially. No more doubts." He nodded, eyes filled with tears. But he didn't cry. Just leaned against the wall and ran a hand over his face. I don't know what to say. Then don't. Just listen. Okay? This baby is coming soon, and you have a choice to make. Either you enter his life completely, or you leave me to handle it alone. But no more standing halfway in. I want to stay completely. Then you'll need to learn. You'll have to be there on good days and bad. Hold him when he cries. Listen to me when I'm falling apart. And understand it won't be easy. But it will be worth it. He walked slowly toward me, knelt in front of me and placed his head against my belly. I won't fail him, Rachel. Or you. Not again. I closed my eyes, and for a moment, I let that moment reach me. Because for the first time, I saw honesty in his actions, not just in his words. The days that followed were peaceful. For the first time in months, my body began to breathe with less weight. Ethan started coming every day. He helped with chores, cooked, listened to me even when I said nothing. He watched TV with me in silence, slept on the couch, and respected my boundaries. The baby's room was finally ready. He painted the walls a soft blue, bought a mobile with clouds and stars, placed a rocking chair in the corner, and there he saw me cry for the first time without hiding my face. "It's okay," he said, kneeling beside me. "You don't have to be strong all the time. It's just, I got so used to not having anyone that even this scares me now. I'm not going anywhere." But I knew that promises made in calm waters aren't the ones that matter most. It's the ones made in the middle of a storm. That's why I waited. Waited to see what he'd do when the world started shaking again. The night I went into labor, he was with me. The pain came like thunder. Ethan drove me to the hospital, hands shaking on the steering wheel. When we arrived, he held my hand while I screamed, sweated, cried. He didn't let go, not for a second. "It's going to be okay, Rachel. I'm here. I'm with you." And he really was. Our son was born at 4:30 in the morning, came into the world crying loud, full of life, and when they placed him in my arms, I cried too. Ethan cried as well, but didn't say anything. He just placed his hand over mine and stayed there, looking at us, as if that moment was a second chance he never thought he'd have. That dawn, everything inside me changed, because I realized that the biggest choice I could make wasn't between forgiving or walking away. It was between staying afraid or allowing something new to happen. 2 days later, already at home, he made coffee, set the table with bread, did everything in silence, and when he sat down, he looked me in the eyes. "Rachel, I love you. I don't know when I lost sight of that, but I love you, and I love our son. But if you feel it's still not enough, I understand." I took a deep breath, looked at our son sleeping in the crib, then looked back at the man sitting in front of me. "Ethan, I loved you deeply. Then I hated you with the same strength, and now I'm trying to understand what still lives inside me. But one thing I know, you don't need to prove anything else. Just keep being who you've been." He nodded, a small smile at the corner of his mouth. "So, does that mean we have a chance? It means I deserve more, and maybe for the first time, I'm starting to accept that. You know, I thought this story would end with me alone, that I'd give birth, come home with my baby in my arms, and keep living the way I had been for months, fighting, surviving, pretending it didn't hurt. But life has its ways. Sometimes it doesn't give back what we lost, but it gives us a new version, imperfect, but possible. Ethan will never undo what he did, and I will never forget. But today I look at him holding our son, fumbling through diaper changes as always, and I see that some things really do change. But you know what changed the most? Me. I discovered I'm not just the woman who was abandoned, not just the pregnant waitress, or the one who cried on the kitchen floor, or the one who was afraid to open the envelope with the name of her child's father. I'm the woman who stood tall, even with a broken soul, and who now holds the beginning of a brand new story in her arms. If you made it this far, thank you, truly, because telling this story healed me a little, and if it touched you in any way, Leave a comment below. Share it with someone who's also trying to begin again. Because no one deserves to live in silence. We deserve more. You deserve more.